I'm being asked, what's up with the cucumber flavored Gatorade and how does it flavor pass a test inspection? I don't fucking know, but what bothers me even more about it is why in the fuck did we buy it? Because obviously you did too, and I did, and it was fucking gross, and then all I sat there thinking was, why did I buy this shit? Then I'm looking at the bottle, you know, being a business person, like what exactly on this bottle enticed me to buy this or even think that fucking cucumber Gatorade would taste good? And it doesn't.
Get the fuck up. Simon says, get the fuck up. Throw your hands in the sky.
We have more rapid fire here. I forgot that we made 2 posts for this. How do you feel a power lifter would benefit from bodybuilding training? This one I'm going to answer completely in its own segment. How much should a power lifter be able to do military presses, 5 times 50% from raw max? That's a rapid fire question. That's all based upon how strong your shoulder press is. You know, it's specific to you. There's not going to be one specific guaranteed answer. I know power lifters that think that the overhead press is the devil and they do none. So their overhead press and military press would absolutely suck compared to their bench. And some of these guys that I'm talking about have held all-time world records in the bench press. Other ones swear by the overhead press for their bench. This falls on what's your strengths and what your weaknesses are. So it's going to be specific to you. So just base it upon what's good for you and just keep trying to work it up from there without sacrificing technique to be able to break the PRs. You've been lifting for a while. He's got his deadlift up around 700 pounds. He's never had any grip issues until recently. I know you hate the deadlift. What can you do for your grip? I actually had the same thing happen to me. My deadlift always averaged between 700 and 740. I would pull based upon what I needed to pull for whatever total I was looking at. So I was really never in the arena to try to pull for a PR. It was always trying to pull for a total or a placement, which it kind of worked out for me because I kind of fucking hated the deadlift too. But one meet that I did, I strained my pec really bad, week out. So I took a token bench, squatted, and then I just pulled, and my pull felt really good. And anyhow, I got up to 775, pulled it to the top, held it, and right before they gave the down command, I dropped it, and I did that stare at your hand thing, like, what the fuck just happened? I never had and I remember walking to Louie and saying, man, I've never, ever had a grip issue in my life. And his answer was, well, you've never had a deadlift strong enough to have one, which was kind of funny at the time. What I've seen help more than anything else as far as grip for the deadlift are hex dumbbell holds. So you're gonna hold the dumbbell by the top of the hex, keeping your fingers off of the numbers because there is a little bit of a indentation there to make it easier. And just take 30-pound dumbbells, start at the 20s if you have to, and just hold them as long as you can. You know, it goes 20s, work up to 30s, work up to 40s. Once you get to the 50s, depending upon your hand size, it could be a little bit hard to hold that. The hex dumbbell holds work extremely well. The other thing that works extremely well are high pin pulls, but you need to hold the lockout for a couple counts. So you need to make sure that you're not doing a really high pin pull and then the time under tension is half what it's going to be by the time that you get the bar to the top or to the completion. Those are 2 things that I've seen work faster than anything. So that's what I would throw out there. First bar fight, give details. Did you fight dirty? Everybody, you know, Mario was out here and we did a segment on bouncing and all that kind of stuff. And I did spend a long time bouncing. And the thing with this is, you know, and I don't know if people get the wrong impression or what it's going to be, but you know, the part of bouncing is, especially when you're bouncing to earn money so you can go to school and continue to powerlift. And for me, powerlifting was the first thing. The last thing I wanted to do was fucking fight, because then I tear a pec or I strain a bicep and then I'm fucked up. And my whole reason for being there in the first place was to powerlift, just became fucked up because of some moron. So, you know, the whole fighting and the bar thing, the number one thing was to avoid getting in the fight in the first place and just getting the people out. I can't remember my first bar fight. There's a bunch of them, you know. Did you fight? What's a clean fight? You know, I don't understand fighting dirty. You know, you're in a bar and people smash you in the face with a bottle. How is that fighting clean? You know, it's you just remove them the way that you remove them. I mean, if you're in a fight, I don't know quite how to answer that, except to say just avoid getting in the fight in the first place. If you're trying to increase your total, that has nothing to do with it at all. You know, and if you are out and about or you are bouncing just because you want to get into fights, well, then maybe you want to reevaluate your fucking life and maybe join an MMA gym and put that aggression to a better, more useful use. How do you feel about frequency programs? I'll address that in a later question in more detail. If somebody's first powerlifting meet, I'll address that in more detail. How many Pop-Tarts, s'mores, or whatever should anybody be able to eat? It's the whole box. The box you buy.
Like 4 boxes.
Well, this is one sitting. I mean, the box was like 99 cents or something like that. So I'm talking the regular box you buy at like a gas station. Right. You know, you can eat that on the way to the gym for breakfast. I mean, if that's a problem, then you're not eating enough. Cucumber flavor. Man, you know what? I tried some of that. It was fucking awful. I'm being asked, what's up with the cucumber flavored Gatorade and how does it flavor pass a test inspection? I don't fucking know. But what bothers me even more about it is why in the fuck did we buy it? Because obviously you did too, and I did, and it was fucking gross. And then all I sat there thinking was, why did I buy this shit? Then I'm looking at the bottle, you know, being a business person, like what exactly on this bottle enticed me to buy this or even think that fucking cucumber Gatorade would taste good? And it doesn't. And it doesn't even taste like cucumber, and cucumber's not even good. So obviously somebody somewhere had a fucking conference table with a bunch of other people with some little cups that they passed around and said, hey, taste this. And they were all like, yeah, thumbs up, take it to market. They're all fucking stupid. So now, because of that, any new flavor of Gatorade, I'm real resistant about. I can't believe you asked that question because that shit is nasty.
Yeah, that is a good question. I can't believe that shit came out. I've had it too.
When deadlifting, as long as your back is not rounded, does it matter how far the hips are up when you start the lift? That depends upon your what your structure looks like, what the biomechanics look like, and what the lift looks like. I would have to actually see you do the lift to see if it's putting your spine or your neck or anything, your hips or anything in any type of compromised position while you're pulling. But if everything is in a good position and it's in a good tight position, braced position without anything really fucked up, then no. The higher the hips, the better it can be because it's going to bring your center of gravity closer to the bar, assuming that your biomechanics are not being compromised. For a first home garage gym, what would you recommend for equipment? Check one of the past table talks. To make this really quick, I would recommend setting up the home gym based upon extra workouts that you could do at home or you'd want to do at home that you can't typically do in the gym that you're training at now. That brings your expenses down a little bit, and it also tests to be able to see if you're going to be consistent with the home gym or not. For example, if you're a power lifter and you squat, bench, and deadlift, you might want to squat at your normal gym and bench at your normal gym, but train your deads at home, a little safer environment. So then all you need to do is to get a platform or build a platform, get the weights, get a deadlift bar, and start training from there and see if you're consistent with that. Then if that works, begin adding other pieces from there. But I'm always more prone when speaking to people who want to start a home gym or a garage gym on making it something in addition to what they're currently doing, just to see if it's going to be used so it doesn't end up being a poor financial decision that they end up putting thousands of dollars in and then never using because they'd rather be in the gym. Shitty answer for someone that sells equipment, by the way, but I'd rather be honest with you guys and have you as lifetime customers than just feed you a line of bullshit to try to make sure that we have more home gyms than anybody else in the world gives a fuck. What matters is if you get stronger or not. Tell more bouncer stories. No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, avoid that one.
If I can work one in here and there, I'll work one here and there. My first rep on the deadlift is much worse than my second. No shit. I don't have this deficit. Man, listen, the reason the second rep is always better than the first rep on the deadlift is your hip position's a little bit higher and there's a little bit more bend in the bar than what you would typically have. I can prove this. Do a set of 2. Do your first rep, set the bar down, let go, step back, step forward, and pull it again. And tell me if the second rep is just as easy as the first. More than likely, it's going to be harder or the same as the first. The second rep, typically, because of the bar bend and the position of the hips, is going to be a little bit easier to pull. With that in mind, when I'm looking at people, I'm looking and they do repetitions on the deadlift. I generally don't like them to do repetitions in succeeding order like that. I like to have them broken, almost as a rest pause. But sometimes I do. It all depends upon the training and who the person is. If I have them doing that, I am looking at the hip position because sometimes there's a more optimal hip position and technical position that can be determined by watching somebody doing their second rep compared to the first because of the exact reason that you're talking about. Then trying to figure out what that is and then using that to try to implement it into the first rep. So if you film that from the side, you want to look and compare your hip position and your shoulder position on the second rep to what it is on the first rep and see if there's a way that you can mimic that on that first rep, and then you'll be stronger on the first rep. Vogelpohl was interviewed and quoted as saying that young guys need a lot of time under the bar without accommodating resistance. What was old school Westside like before? I agree with Chuck 100%. And I think that this is something that a lot of fucking people just don't get. I came to Westside in like 90 or 91, and I can't remember what year bands and chains came in, but chains came in before bands, like 4 years or something like that. But let's just say it was 94. I'm gonna guess. I'd have to look it up to know for sure. It may be documented somewhere. So there's 4 years of training using the conjugate method. And then before that, another 10 years of training using linear periodization. So 14 years before I ever fucking touched a chain or a band. Does that mean that you should avoid chains and bands and that they shouldn't be used for beginners? I think they can be used for beginners. It's just going to be for different reasons. And when I say beginners, a beginner at Westside for us was somebody who already had 5 or 6 years experience in their gym. They are already a very good gym lifter. When I'm speaking beginners now, I'm talking somebody that has like 1 or 2 years of training experience, if that, if anything at all. Where I used bands for personal training clients who were just extremely weak and they didn't know how to squat at all. One of the biggest problems I had with them was teaching them how to stay tight. You know, they would come out and it's just all over the place. And this would be with a broomstick or, you know, an easy curl bar. They couldn't use a regular bar because they weren't strong enough. I would take a mini band and attach it to the broomstick. And then when they came back, that band's moving them around. So automatically they have to tense. They have to get tight. So I'm teaching them how to get tight in a way that will be able to carry over and they can understand instead of me sitting there, you know, tapping them on the sides or, you know, pushing them and saying flex this, flex that. It was a very quick and simple way to be able to teach them this is what you should feel like when you actually have the weight on your back. Another area where bands can help with beginners is assuming, or intermediates is assuming that their technique is good. And by that I mean 80 to 90% good. A lot of times they have a hard time learning to accelerate through the lift, what Fred Hatfield used to call compensatory acceleration, what would be called dynamic effort work, just, you know, applying maximum force throughout the lift. They don't understand the concept. They understand the concept of jumping, but they don't understand the concept of, you know, exploding through with weight. If you put a band on the bar a lighter percentage, and use a box if you want, and they sit down in the box and they try to stand up slow, they're not going to stand up. They're going to come up a little bit, they're going to sit right back down, they're going to say, oh shit, I need to stand up harder, and then they're going to stand up harder. So that was another way that I could use it for beginners to be able to teach them compensatory acceleration. But I do agree with what Chuck said 100%, and I'll take it a step further and say that it's not just beginners, we're talking about people who lack technical efficiency. They have to know how to do the lifts. You know, you need to know how to do the lifts before you can start grounding the lifts. And in some ways, bands and chains will ground the bar to the lift, even if it's reverse or not, it's going to ground the path a little bit. So they have to have a certain degree of technical efficiency before you start adding that stuff in. Some people will disagree. I'm on Chuck on this one based upon the experience that I've had. And the more advanced the lifter, the more my opinion changes, to the more I feel that they need to start using bands and chains. The less advanced or the more intermediate and beginner, the less it's needed.